Hello, and welcome back to another video. I felt like making this video a long time ago, but I hadn't figured out the problems and solutions until now, sort of. This isn't really a story about streaming, it's a story about how I turned something that I loved into something I felt obligated to do. And the scary part is that I didn't realize it was happening until it was too late. Content creation and just creating stuff in general has been a definite hobby of mine for more than 10 years now. When I turned 10, I created my first YouTube channel and video. Ever since then, I haven't had a year without an ongoing project. My very first video was just me playing 3 songs that I had recently learned on the guitar. Later I moved on to making short skits with my friends, and I finally settled on making gaming videos, vlogs and scripted conversational things like the one I'm doing here today. All of these are things that you can see as a montage in my 10 years online video, but nonetheless, what these things had in common was that I did it all without any goal or plan, besides the fact that it would be fun to be famous.
Mitt mål med YouTube är att jag med nöje blir stor på YouTube. Min enda speciella anledning till att jag gör videos är bara för att ha något kul att göra.
On the 9th of June 2020, just over 6 years ago today, I started streaming. It quickly became my main project for a long time, and I loved it. It was in the midst of my summer break and I wasn't doing too good mentally. So having an excuse to stay in my room was the best escape I could ask for. I knew it wasn't the solution for my problems, but I really needed the break at the time. The 2 hours of streaming acted like a short break from my mind. I put on a character which was more outgoing and confident than I was, and it even tricked me. I remember one time when we were hanging out with a family friend. I don't remember exactly what game we were playing, but he complimented me and said that I was good at it. He has known me for the longest time, and before tricking myself with some made-up confidence, I would have just said, thanks. But this time, almost like an impulsive reaction, I instead said, yeah, I know, I'm the best. I know it's better to be humble, but this method of overcharging my confidence for it to then cool down and settle is what has helped me to land on the level of confidence I'm at now. As I started feeling better, I wanted to continue streaming. I had built a tight community that I didn't want to disappoint, and like I said, having an ongoing project is a must for me. It was also really fun. I kept getting ideas, maturing and meeting new people every day. I think streaming is responsible for me becoming way more social. I can confidently say that I used to be an introvert before, but now I seek out conversations at every opportunity. Twitch was growing in popularity, and the amount of people who had time to watch streams exploded as the COVID pandemic locked them inside. This affected everyone, including a 14-year-old like me. Sweden wasn't put into quarantine like many other countries were, but my viewership increased since I spoke English and had many friends from all around the world. Due to that, I wanted to make my streams more professional. With this, I started scheduling my streams, planning the content more, and created the rule, if I've announced it in Discord, I have to do it. That's when the unhealthy habits began. At some point I stopped streaming because I felt like it, and instead I started looking for opportunities to squeeze them into my schedule. Issue 1. Scheduled program. I used to watch Harris Heller and his videos about becoming a better streamer long before I pressed go live. And graphic design has always been a huge hobby of mine. So investing lots of time in learning how to improve my OBS, downloading plugins and making it all look much nicer was no problem. That's what I love doing. But my strict schedule for 2 hours per stream, 2 to 3 times a week, put a lot of strain on my hobby. A thing that began with me playing games and talking to people when I felt like it turned into a scheduled program, and now I felt like I had to put on a show. I remember sitting at my desk 10 minutes before going live and hoping that nobody would notice if I skipped the stream. The problem was that I had already announced it in Discord, so in my head, skipping wasn't an option anymore. Streaming essentially became a chore or a job. It even got to the point where every time I went for a break, whether this was to get more coffee, use the restroom, or simply stretch out my legs a little, I sighed at the relief of being away from the camera. I have never been the camera guy in any scenario. I have always been in front of it, so me getting tired of it was a clear sign that something wasn't right. Of course there were highlights when I truly loved streaming, otherwise I would have quit way earlier. But most of the time I just kept streaming because I felt obligated to do so. Issue 2. Chasing numbers. Another issue arose when my revenue increased on Twitch. I hadn't had a job before, and for the first time in my many hobbies, I was earning money. All of a sudden, I could get something in exchange for all the time I was putting down. And although it wasn't even close to minimum wage, it was a bonus on the side that for some reason made me change how I treated my hobby. It started with me obsessing over how much I made from the more under the radar income streams, such as Prime subscriptions and ads, where the viewers didn't spend money on me specifically. I also had a thing where I knocked down a wall of Pepsi cans for every $10 that I got through donations or bits. And I ended up raising the price for this to $25 because my community was incredibly generous. Other streamers were doing similar things, and the viewers got to interrupt my activity with something that still felt unique. Nobody had to cover the whole goal at once. Instead, they worked together and every donation counted towards it. Compared to what I'll mention next, this felt okay because it brought the community together, and some streams were occupied with me just fulfilling my obligation. To be clear, I don't think earning money ruined my hobby. What changed was that I started measuring the value of my hobby in numbers. I later started putting up goals for me to buy specific stuff. There was no reason for me to ask for more money when people were already giving so much. The Stream Deck I was given contributed to the quality of the streams, but I can't say the same about my new mouse. I can try to hide behind the fact that nobody ever had to give me money, but I still feel bad for asking for it. Especially when I could have just waited for the can wall to fall a few more times and saved up to it. I actually had to hide my viewer count because I started focusing on that too. If the viewership went down, I ended the stream. When this issue grew, an anxiety came with it. I would sit with my starting soon screen up, waiting for somebody to say something in the chat because I didn't want to stream alone. If nobody joined the chat, I would come in with much lower energy than usual, and it would affect the rest of the stream. I believe that my viewership went down for many reasons, and it was partly because quarantine ended and people went back to their regular lives. Those who had watched Twitch for the social aspect could get that from somewhere else, and others didn't have time to watch anymore. But it really didn't help that I didn't find it enjoyable anymore, because the love that I had once had for it was gone. And it sadly showed with my engagement with the viewers and commitment to the streams. Issue 3. Life went on. At this point, the joy of streaming had died completely. So, why did I continue? Well, streaming was now the only thing I knew. It felt like the thing that kept me alive, because it was the only certain thing around. I loved having a routine, and I didn't know how I would spend my time if I didn't stream. As you can tell by the statistics here on screen, I started streaming less, both in time and amount. After a longer break, I tried to get into it again, but the gap stayed consistent. By this time, I was either studying or working. My graduation was getting closer, so it was really important for me to focus on school. I didn't know how to balance my streams with that, and I am a very binary person, so it is either stop or go for me. There was still something luring me to the start streaming button, which was a sign that I still had some love for it. But I knew that I had to take a break since I had been on autopilot for at least 2 years at this point. Even though I wasn't enjoying it anymore, stopping felt terrible. Streaming had become such a large part of my identity that I didn't really know who I was without it. Remember, I've been making content for 10 years now, and 4 of those were focused on Twitch. So, of course it was scary to end, even though it had just become a routine. Solutions. There are no permanent solutions, just ways to handle problems. The problem wasn't that I suddenly started hating streaming. The problem was that every change I made seemed reasonable at the time. Scheduling streams was reasonable, improving production quality was reasonable, taking streams more seriously was reasonable. But when you stack enough reasonable decisions on top of each other, you can accidentally build something you no longer enjoy. When I look back at those days, it's very much a blur. But I know how I was feeling, and milking a dead cow like that isn't a way to go with the hobby that you truly love. All this complaining sounds like I'm doing just that, complaining. But I'm grateful for the streams that I had and the fact that I got viewers at all, because I know of so many people who stream to nobody. The problems that I'd like to highlight with this video are not scheduling, earning money from a hobby, or anything like that. It is that I didn't let my hobby breathe. I made it so strict and rigid that it couldn't flow as spontaneously as a hobby needs to. The moment any hobby becomes an obligation, it stops serving the purpose it had in the first place. My last stream was on September 6th, 2024, and I'm finally getting comfortable with the thought of streaming again. Since I would be getting into it with a genuine reason, I don't feel the same obligation to make it as professional or care as much about the viewership. Instead, I would be able to stream more relaxed content. No matter what, the resurrection of my streaming hobby would have to be done with similar rules as the ones I follow here on YouTube. After this burnout, I was very apprehensive with starting my YouTube channel again. That too is a hobby that I cherish a lot, if not even more. So I needed to be careful with how I handled it. I thought long and hard before making my return and came up with these rules. Number 1, just one video a month. And nothing too big when I feel busy. And finally, no video is a must. I do like setting goals and sticking to them, but as the third rule states, no video is a must. Therefore, I must have a format that works for the times when I'm not at my best. That's why My Last Vinyl is such a good format for me. For those of you who have missed it, it is a show that I have here on YouTube where I talk about the last vinyl I've bought. I purchase vinyl records either way, I like talking about music, and that type of video is very easy to make when I don't have time or interest in making something else. The issue with going back to streaming is that I do not like what streaming culture has become. I know that the community-driven Twitch that I knew still exists, but calling yourself a streamer today is associated with the clip-chasing, overstimulating, optimized shows that every modern stream has become. If I was to stream again, I just want the old school microphone, face cam, and display capture combination. That makes streaming a hangout session instead of a show. I am also a bit scared to commit, because I know how it went last time. And like I said, I'm a binary person, so if I go fully into this, I will be going fully into it, which won't work. With that being said, I'm not sure if I'll ever get back to streaming again. But who knows? I still have my Just Migraine account active, and I could theoretically set up a YouTube stream if I feel like hanging out here instead. Of course, I still have ongoing projects, but I'm handling them in a much healthier way today. So, if you feel like checking any of that out, I have my music and other projects linked down below. I wanted to talk about this for the longest time, primarily to get it off my chest and put words to what I've been thinking. But I'm also making this video with the hope that somebody else who is in a similar situation takes a moment to think about how they can keep their hobby alive and healthy. Looking back, I do not regret streaming. I regret how I ruined my hobby. The streams that I remember the most are not the ones with the highest viewership or most donations. They are the ones where I was excited to press go live, a genuine moment became a clip, or some stupid concept became an inside joke in chat. With that being said, nurture your hobbies, or else you don't know how long they will last. And always do stuff with genuine intentions. Thank you for listening. Take care. Melly says, hi Miggy. Hello, Melly. I guess you're in the call. But say hi from me. Say, hi, Melly.